We are here because we are not going to let any misogynist, racist come to our cities without our voices being heard. We are here because we do not buy right-wing narrative masked by common sense respectability of Dutch or European values. We are here because we know how dangerous Thierry Baudet and his party is, and we're not scared to speak up. We, women, queers, Dutch and non-Dutch migrants, anti-racists, anti-capitalists, feminists, workers, unemployed, students and people of Utrecht, we are here because we cannot stay silent when people like Baudet come to our cities. Because it's not only our politics, but our lives that are threatened every time someone with a very right-wing, conservative, neoliberal agenda gets to have space and seats in the parliament. Today, I speak to those of you who are here, to those of us who are tired to see racist, Islamophobe, misogynist rhetoric to be sold as democratic populist talk. I speak to those of us who can see beyond the right-wing rhetoric of fear and of defending traditions, and I even speak to those around us who maybe think Baudet and the Forum for Democracy is something new. Baudet is not new. The Forum for Democracy is not new. They are the cleaned-up, Latin-speaking, lavender-smelling, respectable face of what we in the Netherlands have had for years, neoliberal, elitist, white nationalist, sexist politicians. Baudet and his politics speak of fear. Fear of Muslims, fear of refugees, fear of anything that threatens their middle-class, white, patriarchal comfort, their traditional privilege. Who is actually afraid of that? Baudet and his politics speak of a European renaissance. What is that if not a new version of the same white European nationalist supremacy that has created colonialist exploitations, slavery and oppression? Baudet and his politics are trying to create an enemy that does not exist. Who is the enemy of women, people of color, queers, families struggling to pay bills, people trying to find affordable housing, and people trying to live a life in solidarity together with others? Baudet presents himself as the strong man, who is able to keep women at bay and who defends the national economy. Does that ring a bell? Remember other historical figures who have presented themselves exactly like that, strong men. I'm Italian and I remember, fascism is not something of the past. He explicitly says that women are inferior, is trying to tell us that migrants and refugees are the problem. Really? We know better and we are not afraid. Baudet and the Forum for Democracy feed a culture of fear, where black and brown people are racially profiled by our institutions, where LGBTQ people have to conform to be tolerated, where women have to stay silent to be allowed to be, where working class and poor people have to go live outside of the cities and can barely afford education, health and housing. There is nothing new about Baudet and the Forum for Democracy, other than they seem to be smart at hiding their intolerant agenda behind a facade of respectability. The strong white man who wants to close borders, who treats women as inferior, who speaks of common sense and tradition, and has the support of the entrepreneurial class, is not new and is dangerous. We have seen this with Trump, we have seen it with others in the past. Baudet, Hiddema, and the Forum for Democracy, they are the elite they so hardly try to distance themselves from. The elites who have supported the same neoliberal politics that have enabled people like Trump to be in power. They are the people who, with their speeches in the second chamber, their online supporters, their alt-right harassment, their talks at the European Parliament, they create a culture of violence, sexism and racism. They are the ones that create a culture of violence. They are the offspring of the same politicians that in the last few years have drastically cut funding to social housing, to students, cut funding to people who are trying to make a society more just, cut funding to people with non-European, non-white backgrounds. They are the ones who are afraid of other traditions, of other ways of living, of women speaking up, of black and brown people taking public space, of non-normative genders, and of feminists. Fear does not build a sustainable economy, and it does not build a just society. Fear creates neoliberal, racist, fascist regimes. Solidarity is what makes life livable. We have learned that intolerance, Islamophobia, sexism and racism are not common sense values. Baudet presents to represent the Dutch people. Who are the Dutch people? We as women, people of color, migrants and natives, students, critical minds, LGBTQ, queers, refugees, teachers, precarious workers, we together are the majority and we are not silenced. In this time and age, if you don't speak up, you are complicit to these right-wing narratives. No one can afford to be a silent bystander. This involves us all. We won't stay silent. We are here and we'll keep speaking our voices and occupy spaces together in solidarity.